everyone. This is Jeff Wilkerson, Professor of Physics at Luther College, bringing you one more in the series of what to look for in the night sky. This time we're talking about April 11th, 2022. So let's start. The moon is filling out this week. So the moon's gonna start 70% full and be full by the end of the week. By the beginning of the next week, it will have rolled over and be starting to wane just a little bit. So let's talk about the motion of the moon. What it does in the evening sky is it makes it hard to see deep sky objects, for example. It's just the sky is so bright. But it's going to be moving through Leo for much of the week and headed into Virgo. So let's look at Leo and Virgo. This is a region of the sky we've looked at a lot. So we know Leo. We think about Leo as this triangle tail with Dana Bola out there at the tip. And then we have bright Regulus back here. That's the brightest star in the constellation is Regulus. Back up here, and then we have this sort of backward question mark or sickle shape that marks the head of Leo there. And so what's going to happen, I'll recognize that in the sickle, the brightest star in the sickle shape as you move up from Regulus is Algieba. It's known as Gamma Leonis, and we've talked about it before. So if you want something to look at with your telescope this week, and you have the small telescope, that's a fine binary star to go and look at the two stars in Gamma Leonis there. So that's your telescopic observation for this week in that region. On the evening of the 11th into the morning of the 12th, the moon will be sitting in the sickle of Leo. So the Gamma Leonis will hold up to that. So that gives you something to observe with a probably 70% full moon at that point. It will have gone past 80% full by the time it slides the next two nights. So it slices between Regulus and Dana Bola, the two brightest stars in the constellation, and then moves right on down beneath Regulus as it's headed on toward Virgo. Virgo's down here. We've expanded the Virgo region of the sky over here to talk about it just a little bit more. So the moon's headed out in this direction and filling out. So definitely headed toward full. So that's the evening of the 11th, morning of the 12th. This region of the sky is up much of the night right now. So this is the full moon. That's the thing we know is the full moon is up all night. The other phases of the moon appear at different times as it's waning in the week after the one we're talking about here. When we think about the week of April 18th, as the moon is waning, it's rising later and later and later each night and stays up longer into the morning, and you'll be able to see it after sunrise. So be watching for that as we move through. Now you'll be able to see the moon early in the week. You'll be able to see the moon just before sunset a little bit. And so it's rising before sunset. By the time that we get to the end of the week, it'll be rising right at sunset and then starts rising after sunset. And so this is what we want to watch. The moon slide through Leo here. Beautiful region for galaxies. But with too much moon to be observing galaxies at this time. So let's blow up this region as it's headed towards Spica and Virgo down in this region. We blow this up. And so now we jump ahead a few days too and say this is the evening of the 16th and the morning of the 17th. So as we're looking 16 into 17, what we're thinking about here this night is the moon is very near the bright star Spica. So this is the brightest star in Virgo down here. We think of Virgo, we've done this many times before. We think of Virgo as a sort of Y or martini glass with Spica at the base down here. Let's think about how to get there. So we often talk about, we follow the Big Dipper. The two in stars in the bowl of the Big Dipper point to Polaris, the North Star. You got to curve just a little bit to the right. So you got to curve out there just a little bit. But there's Polaris up that direction. And then we take the handle of the Big Dipper and it curves right there, and right at the curve is Mizar and Alcor. They're two stars that many people, I have trouble with it, but many people can see those two stars as distinct objects in the handle of the Big Dipper. Alcor, the fainter star, right there. Mizar, the brightest star. Now, Mizar is an interesting star, and I'm sure we've talked about it before. You can observe that with your telescope now as a double star, and so pull Mizar apart. But it turns out that Mizar A and Mizar B, both of these stars there, are binary stars themselves, and this can only be seen as spectroscopic binary stars. You see two sets of spectral lines in there, and in fact they're moving relative to one another as the stars orbit. So that's a Doppler shift thing. As a star comes towards you, its lines get shifted toward the blue, and as the star moves away from you, the lines get shifted toward the red. And if they're different kinds of stars, if they're different sizes of stars, for instance, as main sequence stars, then they're going to have different intensities of lines, and different lines will appear. And you can tell there are two stars there that you've got, here's a set of lines that's typically associated with this type of star, I don't know, G5. And here's a set of lines that's typically associated with this kind of star, a K2 star. And you see these two sets of lines superposed on one another. If the stars are similarly close in temperature, then they're going to have very similar lines, and it's hard to do that. It's hard to see that. But you can see them as they orbit. As one star comes towards you, those lines get shifted to the blue. As the other star moves away from you, simultaneously, it gets shifted to the red. So you see these two lines shift relative to each other. And that's what goes on with Mizar here. So we can see that happening. So that's something to think about as you're enjoying that view. Now, we like to say the handle arcs. It curves down toward Arcturus. So Arcturus is the first really big bright star you come to. And Arcturus is in the base of Boötes. And Boötes, to me, I don't know if I've heard other people talk about this, but it looks kind of like a kite. And so this time in the spring, for us in the northern hemisphere, this time in the spring, the Big Dipper's climbing up high into the evening sky, and it's wrapping around as it gets later and later and later at night, and in the morning you can see it wanting to settle on the other side of the pole. So this climbs up into the sky, and this arcs down this direction, and we can see stretched back up toward the direction of the Big Dipper, west of the Big Dipper, is this what I think of as a kite asterism. It's shaped like a kite that looks something like that, is Boötes. Those stars, none of those stars are terribly bright, and none of those stars are terribly dim. So Arcturus is bright. Okay, it's terribly bright, whatever that means. So Arcturus is bright, but once you get past, there's a couple of stars down here too. Once you get past Arcturus, all of these stars are decently bright, and so you can definitely check out this kite asterism as you move around here. The star that we've marked here at the top, we got some named stars in here. Nekkar, it would be the Arabic name for this star right here. And as always, we like to look at Alan's star names right here. And it says that Nekkar is the Arabic name for the entire constellation, the entire group. And we started last week introducing some Chinese names, according to Alan right there. And Xiao Yao, it would be the name of this star up here at the top of the kite. And that would be to beckon, would be a translation of that star right there. So you can think of this as an enticing star up that direction. Now off if you look across this direction, sort of straight across from Sagittarius here, over this direction, you see a little curl of stars. It's a fun little tight grouping of stars that is Corona Borealis. So check out Corona Borealis. The brightest star in there is Algieba, and so you can see Corona Borealis as this nice little group of stars right here. If you continue the arc of the handle of the Big Dipper through Arcturus, we like to say we spin on down to Spica down here, Spica in the base of Virgo. Now, that curl, that arc through Arcturus and down into Spica on the morning of the 16th and 17th is going to almost run smack into the full moon. So this is the evening, the night of the 16th, the morning of the 17th. You slide right past the full moon. The full moon will be just a little bit to the west of that. I think maybe I was saying that wrong. This is east over here. No. This is the stars are. Here's where this confusion comes from, right? It depends whether you turn and looking south, as you are for Virgo, or whether you're turned and looking north. When I look north, east is on one side for me. When I turn and look south, east is now to my left. And so it's easy for me to stand here in front of a camera and confuse myself as I'm talking to you. But to any event, the moon is moving easterly this direction, and it will still be a little bit west of this line from Arcturus to Spica on the evening of the 16th and the morning of the 17th. But it's almost full. It is over 99% full this night when you're looking at it. So you want to go out, you check out the full moon and see it moving across this direction. For us in North America, It'll be during the day, just after we get into daylight on the 17th. The moon will pass full. So by the time it gets to be the night, the 17th into the morning of the 18th, the moon will have started waning and will be past full just a little bit. So watch for that stuff. All of this is great stuff. What we've introduced on our website, you go to luther.edu, www.luther.edu/astronomy, and we have some stuff out there. And we've added a new page to that website recently that I call asterisms, and it's just pictures I'm taking with my cell phone of groups of stars in the night sky. All of these stars have pages out there. We have one for Leo, we have one for Boötes and Corona Borealis, and we have one for the Big Dipper. I don't think we have one for Virgo yet, now that I say that. So we'll work on that and see if we can get that out there. But we got the Big Dipper, Boötes and Corona Borealis, and Leo. And for many of these, we have the stars marked. That we have marked here, so you can go look to see what a picture of them on the night sky looks like. That's what we got for you this week. Moon moving through Leo into Virgo. Think about finding the stars of Boötes if you haven't before, and Corona Borealis, maybe a new constellation for you to try to learn this week. A couple of binary stars, a couple of double stars you can look at with your small telescope if you desire to do so. Have a great week, everybody. We'll have something else to look for next week. Hope you have clear skies.